Ici, Ici Butcher. Ici, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so obviously my name's Icy and I am married to a guy called Phil. And together we have 4 children ranging from 23 now to 14.
Wow.
And I just close my eyes then because I have to sort of like remember how old are my kids. It's like memory loss, I think. So
Oh,
yeah, so I've got 4 kids. I am self-employed. I'm a therapist and I work from home and I love it. I love my job. Family is very busy and yeah, so that's me kind of like in a nutshell.
so have you always done that then, Icy? Have you always been a therapist?
No, so I started off when my background is just to give some context is that I was in foster care myself, and my foster mum picked up quite quickly in me. I didn't like school very well, and so she really encouraged me, and I loved kids, and so she got me in. It was her. She got me into college, and I started off as a nursery nurse. So I first qualified as a nursery nurse, worked in nurseries and nannied for years, and then went into primary school work
Yeah.
when I fell pregnant with my first child.
Wow.
And I went into SEN. And so I was actually a SEN social and emotional specialist for 15 years, and then progressed from that to family support worker to
Yeah.
then doing family support worker and then training as a therapist at the same time and 4 kids. So it was
Wow.
a busy time, yeah. And then sort of like slowly transferred from primary school work to I'm a university mentor as well for
Wow.
kids who suffer with mental health stuff. Went into that and transferred into full-time therapy in my private practice. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing. So
that's quite
having,
a lot, wasn't it?
yeah, so much, so much. But having that exposure to children through work, um, did that kind of feed into any expectations you might have had going into motherhood? Did you have any or
Well, when I felt pregnant, after the oh my goodness, what have I done moment, which came straight after the pregnancy test, it really was. I was just like, I was like, I'm okay. I'm trained up until I'm 7. I know what I'm doing till then. And then I said to my husband, you can take them from 7. So I was kind of like prepared in some ways, but also there is not one book, there is not one podcast, there is not one chat that you will ever have that will ever prepare you for motherhood.
100?
And yeah, we've been a couple that have tried to feel our way through it rather than doing lots and lots and lots of reading. Of course, there's a bit, and there's lots of advice to get from people who've done it before, but yeah, my work kind of prepared me, but nowhere near.
Yeah. So what did you have any expectations? And if so, were they met or were they just completely smashed to pieces?
I think I should be now they're completely smashed to pieces.
Wow. Yeah.
So, do you know what? One of my things is, or any mums out there, if you have children that sleep, just don't tell anyone, because I've got 4 children, like I said, right? Two are adopted, 2 are my birth children. My 2 birth children came before my adopted children,
Yeah.
and after Lauren, who was 26 and a half hours labour, by the way, 26 and
Wow.
a half. She likes the half part as well. She didn't sleep. She just didn't sleep. And all this midwife stuff and doctors and family saying, have a sleep when the baby sleeps. I'm like, when? She sleeps for 20 minutes at the max. So we had her, and then we were like, it can't get no worse. It can't get any worse. And so we went for number 2. It got worse.
Oh my goodness.
I never entering that stage. It was like I remember going into schoolwork, setting an alarm for my lunch hour, and sleeping in my, because I have my own little room,
Yeah.
and sleeping to get through the day of work to then do the night thing. But I had my parents say to me, "Oh, it all changes when they're teenagers." I did not believe them, and then it was like this switch went
Wow.
off in them. Yeah, it was really weird. And even to this day, I'm like, are they dead up there or are they sleeping? I'm not quite sure. I'm hoping they're alive.
Wow.
So they did. And by that stage, our body clocks had started waking up early. So I was really grateful. But I know that's all jokes, but on the other side, you know, what the books don't prepare you for, and I think even chats with friends, is the joy and the when they achieve something, you know, especially if they've been struggling with something or
Yeah.
they overcome it, you know, just that immense feeling as a mum
Mm.
is like no other. You know, we've just had an experience where my son, he had completely bombed out on his A levels. He went into depression, I would say, and you know, he really struggled. He struggled with his confidence anyway,
Yeah.
and so we pulled him out of the school. He's severely dyslexic, and he'd really struggled. So we pulled him out of school and forced him into college, but like my mum did. And he just took off, and it was the style of teaching,
Yeah.
and he redid it all, and he got the equivalent of 3 A stars, and he got his
Wow.
first choice university. And oh my goodness, I mean, when I left him at university, and he's just gone this September, like I was crying. Not as I'm not that mum that's like crying at the door, like I'm never going to see you again, or how are you going to cope with me? I was crying because of sheer pride, and you
Yeah.
know, just having that experience. Nothing prepares you like that, you
Wow.
know.
Wow. So
So
you made reference to the fact that you were fostered. So
mm,
how has your own upbringing kind of fed into the way that
mm.
you've mothered your children?
Massively, I think. You know, I always say my story is a real blessing. After a lot of therapy, you know, learning that your story, you know, you can either look at it from a lens of it's unfair, why did this happen to me? Or you take it as actually the reality is this is my story, and
Mm.
how do I use that for good for myself, for my people around me who I love. And so I think, you know, my foster parents, they took in me and my brother in the early 80s, and
Wow.
they were really ahead of their time. So me and my brother are both mixed heritage.
Yeah.
Both my foster parents are white, like whiter than white, you know, and, you know, with things like we'd never seen a Yorkshire pudding before in our life, you know. My mum would say to me, we could not understand you when you first came because we spoke in such a broad Jamaican accent.
Wow.
Now listen to me. I'm like, I'm so English, you know, just things like that. And but the way they parented us, so they didn't have any training on traumatized children.
Yeah.
I think that you know they're not perfect. They didn't get it right all the time,
Mm.
but what they did do really impacted me, but also really impacted me not just with my parenting style, but also I think in how I am in my marriage, and
Wow.
how together we decide to parent.
Wow.
And you know, and then the side that comes from my birth family, there was a lot of trauma there. So I experienced a lot of physical abuse and lots of domestic violence. And I have a temper. And
Mm.
so I really have to work hard on recognizing when I've gone 0 to 20, for really the slightest little thing, not just hormones, not just sort of like I'm having a bad day, but really that's out of order.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm grateful that my parents taught me how to apologize to my children. You know, they would come and apologize to me, and I will go and apologize to my children. And also, what we've done is encourage the children to pick us up on it. You know,
Yeah.
if they feel like it's really out of order, there's a certain way to be able to teach your children how to approach parents.
Wow.
And you know, and even my daughter, you know, she's 22 now, and she'll be like, "Mum, I think that might be body shaming." I'm like, "Where did you come up with these words?" I'm like, "Stop being a therapist, child," you know. Like, but she will pick me up on stuff, and I will go away
Oh,
and I will have a think, and I'll go back to her, and you know, sometimes it is because I said so, because they just need to learn that. But
yeah.
a lot of it is still discussion. And I think my parents really impacted me and my parenting in that way.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, you know, you speak about kind of the trauma you've experienced through your upbringing, but what has been like your lowest or hardest moment as a parent yourself?
I think one of the hardest times for me was so there was me, my brother, and my younger sister, and we were the way it all happened. We were all fostered, but families from the church took us in, and so me and my sister had we would always joke and say we were best friends, and we had the privilege of having a sisterly relationship without all the, oh, you nicked my shirt, or no, I like that boy, because we didn't live together. So it's perfect. And she suddenly died when she was 26. And my eldest son is her son. And he was 6 years old when he died, when she died. And having to carry the trauma for me of losing my best friend next to my husband. But before that, we'd had this chat of, we will take your child. Of course, we'll take Lucas, no problem. You know, this child bounced it a lot. I'm like his ADHD, mate. I was like, God, I'll take him. And then it happened.
Wow.
And, you know, and so one thing I would really say is be very careful of what you do promise.
Yeah.
There was no other choice, and there would be no other choice, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But I think you have to look at your capacity,
Yeah.
and you know, and stuff, and be really honest with yourselves, because it was sudden, it was unexpected, and before we knew it, we were in court filing for custody for Lucas. You
Wow.
know, and supporting a 6-year-old who, Gemma had a similar experience to what we had as little one. So there's quite a lot of domestic violence in her house. So Lucas, you know, he was already, you know, struggling, shall we say.
Yeah.
And he came to us, and he had already been moved from obviously his mum's house to his grandparents for the 6 months of court battle.
Yeah.
And then from everything he knew to London. So he lost his mum, his friends, his support network, everything in 6 months. And then I remember, and also his dad, who has never been very good. You know, we've worked hard to try and get him that support. But I remember when he was about 7, him just sitting on my lap. We were on the floor, and he was broken. And I couldn't hold it together any longer. Phil came in, he was like, oh my goodness. No, he was trying to put me back together again, while I was putting Lucas back together again. But Lucas was just saying, you know, he was talking about his mum, and then he was talking about his dad, and why didn't his dad want him, and why did mum have to go? And, you know, it was one of the hardest and lowest points of being a mum, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, really tough.
Honestly,
Really tough.
I just like it's just so shocking, like knowing how like happy you are and like how positive you are, and just the way you're talking about you know, the way you frame things rather than seeing why did this happen to me, to actually, you know, being able to kind of see it as a blessing and use it to bless others. Like I know that, you know, that I've kind of referred a couple of people to you who similar thing has happened, and it just shows you that actually the pain that you can experience, how it can be turned into like a blessing for others and helping them. So thank you so much for sharing that. Wow.
That's okay. But I would like to add that, you know, when you talk about blessings, Lucas came to us so far behind that they couldn't even level him at school. That boy just graduated with a first.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
God does turn things around. He turns it around, you know,
that
and
is
it's still painful, but, you know.
Wow, that is amazing. So, how has being a mother shaped your relationship with God?
I think I've learned a deeper understanding of what love is.
Mm,
I really struggled with a sense of who I was, and that I was lovable, that I was meant to be, that I had a purpose. And
mm.
then the moment I had the first one, I just looked and just thought, and my kids know this as well. Any of you break the law, I will hand you into the police myself, but I will still love you. And they all say that to me. I know you'll hand me in, but you still love me, And I think that that's quite a big thing, isn't it? Of that sense of no matter what they do, actually, that's the same as me and God, and so much
Yeah,
more. I can never quite grasp just how much He loves me.
yeah,
But there's this security that comes with, I don't know, understanding love, and healthy love. So unconditional love.
mm,
It's really powerful when you begin to grasp that,
mm,
and you let go of all those, oh, but I'm not good enough, or I keep failing, or I keep doing this. And you just remember, yeah, but when your kids do that, what do? You come alongside them, you encourage them, and you help them, you build upon whatever you've taught them before, or you give them a word of wisdom, or
yeah,
you'll send. We've done it before with our kids. We've phoned somebody. Can you pretend like you've not had a conversation with us and just go and check in on them? So we sent someone. God sends people, and how
yeah,
much more? How much more? And I think that wherever I go, whatever I do, that's unshakable in me now.
yeah.
Absolutely unshakable. And I
Wow.
think it was really solidified by having kids.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I definitely like experienced a level of that when having Zachariah. You're just like, wow, okay, so this is, this is a demonstration of how God loves us.
Yeah,
And um, just, yeah, it just connects you in a
yeah,
whole another way.
yeah, it
Um,
really does.
so like what would you say would be the one thing that you kind of the greatest lesson that you've learned in motherhood?
That I'm going to get it wrong more than I get it right.
Yeah.
I struggled for years with this idea of this perfect mother.
Yeah.
The moment I let it go, I walked in freedom.
Wow.
Because what I carried with me was this: I'm not good. I'm not a good enough mum. I get it wrong all the time. Well, actually, yeah, I do. I get it all wrong all the time. I feed them chicken when they're little. Listen, chicken nuggets Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, perfect. It's not going to kill them. And this sense of because what it does, it feeds into this, like, we have to compete, or
Yeah.
then it feeds into I'm not good enough, and then that feeds into our own self-esteem, and then we start to go down to the bottom.
Mm,
That's not helping our children. I think the moment that we can actually start saying, yeah, I get it wrong all the time, but I'm doing my best. On a
yeah,
good day, you'll hear me say I'm a good mum. On a bad day, you'll hear me say I'm good enough. you know
that
And
is
I
so
have to own
powerful.
that, because it just lets everything else go. My family is so unique. I'm, as you can tell, a bit unique and a bit bonkers, but I own it and I love it. And because it just, does it mean that I don't have comparison days? Of course not. But I
Yeah.
have to learn and just say, no, that's it. I'm not thinking that way anymore, because this is the lane that God's given me is this. The
Mm,
lane that He's given me has got my 4 children on it, and my husband, and my work, not anyone else's.
yeah,
And I just need to let go of that being a good enough mum. What is that anyway?
yeah,
What
exactly.
is that? Because every child is an individual and unique.
Yeah,
So good enough, my good enough is not going to be good enough for the other child,
yeah.
or the next child, and next child, and next child, because they're not my kids. you know, my
Oh,
good enough is my own kids. Does that make
exactly.
sense?
Yeah, oh, so much sense, so much sense. And I think it's something that I have really struggled with, because I think I was like a serial comparer anyway. And then so that has been something that I've struggled with massively going into motherhood. And I think as well, where my upbringing was quite authoritarian, and you know, if we did well, we felt like we were like good enough. You know, if we did well at school, then it meant that you know, we'd feel that like kind of like our self-esteem would be boosted in that way. And so again, that has like fed into the way that I mother as well. Not because I particularly like, I'm not academic, I wouldn't say, and I'm not like, I don't feel like, oh, my kids have to go to uni, but at the same time it's almost like a fear like not doing well academically means that, you know,
oh my goodness, they're going to end up like never ever working in their lives, or they're going to be this waste person or whatever. Yeah, I know, because I come from a family that there's a lot. So my brother went to Oxford, another one went to Durham, and then my sister went to Warwick. I went to college. I just about got a diploma. They're coming out while I was first and all this, and the pressure there. And I just think, no, you know, it's really hard though to shake it off, because that becomes part of our foundation. And as adults, we're constantly having to say, no, that's not the right foundation. And I know for my kids, what I really want to foster in all of them is this sense of individuality. My daughter is she just qualified, got her degree from uni in photography. And while she was choosing her A levels, and we were like, do photography, you love it, just do it. And she was like, I don't know. She did it. She did really well. And then it was, what do you want to go on to uni? And I said, do something that you enjoy, because listen, you're going to come out with a whole ton of debt, you know, go into something that you actually love. And she was like, and she kept worrying about it. And she said to me, why can't you be like other mums? Just tell me to be a doctor or a teacher or a nurse. I was like, do what you love and what you enjoy. Now, we did give her a bit more sort of like support and stuff, but I never want my kids to look back and feel like they weren't good enough. And what they desired, whether it be music or in the arts, or whether it's an academic or sports. My two boys are very sporty, and they've both gone into the sports field. You know, whatever it is, all areas of life need to be filled. And I don't need them to be earning 50k a year. Well, that would be nice. I'd like a free holiday. Pay me back for all the holidays I took them on. But I don't. What's that for? It's about their life. It's not us anymore. And I think we have to learn from our parents. There was a really great quote I heard, but it's the job of the generation to correct the generation before them. And I love that, because actually, some of the way my parents did it was wrong. You know, you feeling like, actually, maybe academics is definitely really important. And of course it's important, but it's not the be all and end all. I left school with one GCSE, one, which was art, and I got a C, and I was really upset about that, because I deserved a B. That's the only thing I left with. Then I went on successfully to work with kids, and you know, and now I own my own private practice. You know, it's I think if we honour what God's given us, and we honour that in our children, isn't that the most important thing? But we have to be honest with ourselves with what our weaknesses are, or what we struggle with, because we will pass it on. You know?
Definitely. And I think as well that you know, the more time I spend with God, and just asking him like to, you know, correct my heart and correct my ways, that throughout the week something will happen, and he'll just like whisper. So, even today, like Zachariah was doing some homework, and he did really well on 2 of the exercises, but not so well on 1. And so I then rewarded him with, like, he's got like a sticker chart, a couple of stickers the ones that he did well. And even in that moment, I thought, you need to be careful of that, Sharon,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't want him to pursue perfection.
yeah,
I want him to know that just trying your best. Like
yeah,
that's all I want.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm like constantly kind of like learning and realizing,
And this is why us mums go to bed with all this stuff in our heads, because we're like looking at the past, looking at the present, looking at what they're doing, like activity wise in 20 days' time, and how the holiday's going to be, and have I done enough activities, and have I got all the dinners correct? And oh my, it's just a mind mess sometimes, isn't it?
really is. So how do you then handle mum guilt? Because that is something that I really suffer with. So if you have any practical ways to handle mum guilt, please share.
I eat a whole ton of chocolate at night. That's how I deal with it. You know what? Seriously, I think mum guilt, I think it can come from lots of different spheres. So you
Yeah,
get it from society and from what you see on Instagram and
yeah,
Facebook and all that. You get mum guilt from your kids as
yeah,
well. Oh, it's not fair, and everyone else gets to play this and not me. And honestly, it goes on. And then you get it from your family as well.
yeah,
Oh, have you really thought about that? Or what? I think this might be best. And so then you start doubting yourself. And I thank God for my husband. I
mm,
really do. And my sister was a single mum, and I thank God for our relationship, because she used to use me the way I use my husband. So
oh,
there's a if even if you're a single mum, you can still be helped in your parenting by somebody to
mm,
bounce those ideas off. What do you think? But there have to be that person that you know is going to call you out on your rubbish.
yeah,
Like, why are you doing that? It's because you want them to be the best, isn't it? you know. But at the same time, encourage you in that actually it's going to be really tough for you to hold those boundaries, but
yeah,
it's going to be okay, because your kid's not going to like it, but in 10 years, they'll thank you for it.
yeah,
And so I think you have to watch out where you're getting that guilt from. And again, it's about all that being very much in tune
yeah,
with what's going on for you. And if you're feeling guilt, just stop, pause, and just have a think about, well, what have I done today? It might be that you've been on Instagram too long.
yeah,
Simple as. It
yeah,
might be that you went out with those friends that you realised, oh, that's why I don't go out with them. I've got, yeah.
yeah,
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 because you just hear all this, and it could be money talk, and I know for me and my husband, we're never going to be rich,
yeah,
and I have got friends who are very wealthy, and so you hear what they're doing, you're just like, you're so bad that I can't do that for my kids.
yeah,
But no, hang on a minute, and it really is just trying to track what have you been doing, who
yeah,
have you been around, what voices you've been listening to. Go back to God, go back to the Word, go back to like those healthy voices, and talk to that important person who
yeah,
helped you parent, whether
yeah,
that be your best friend, your husband, your mum, whoever, but keep those voices small, a small circle. Too many voices will crowd you out your own,
yeah,
and ultimately, your kids best, you know,
100%,
they're our kids.
yeah,
And, we made some choices for our kids that made no sense to other people,
yeah,
but they made perfect sense to them.
yeah,
That's what it
wow.
was, wasn't it?
So if there was one piece of advice before we wrap it up that you could give to someone else, maybe like it could be something that you wish you'd known or just something you've learned, like what is the kind of like golden nugget that you would pass on to someone?
I was about to say, don't have them. No, we love our children. We love our children. I think whatever you think it's going to be is going to. That was really bad, wasn't it? I love
No, I
my
do
kids.
think people need to think carefully though.
They
They really do.
really do. Look, whatever you think it's going to be, it's not going to be like that. It's going to
Yeah,
be so different. But I really, honestly, I wish someone had told me about child labour, because I went into it with everybody saying it's the most beautiful experience you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
And I had one person in my life who said, it's the worst thing I've ever been through, but it couldn't have been that bad because I went back the second time. But that's all I needed to hear. I didn't need to hear any horror stories or anything like that. I just needed the honest truth. So I just draw people around you who are going to be honest and true to you.
Yeah.
And give you wise advice, wise counsel. And most importantly, trust yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the biggest thing I've learned as being a mum. There's no quick fix to it, or, you know, and you're going to agonize over some decisions. You're going to lay awake at night. You're going to cry your heart out for your kids.
Yeah.
When your kids getting bullied. We've watched 2 of our kids get bullied really badly, and it's heartbreaking. But it is, stay the course, trust yourself, and you just put relationship over anything else. Keep them talking, even as teenagers when they are grunting at you. Learn their grunts, honestly. Because I could tell when my son, when he grunted at me, whether he was hungry or whether he'd had a bad day or whether he was just dipping a bit.
Yeah.
You know, learn their grunts.
Yeah.
You know, we all say, oh, they just grunt at me. Learn them then, you know. Keep relationship and keep the talking going. And all 4 of our kids, from 23 down to 14, they all want conversation with us. And we haven't done anything majorly special apart from keep relationship with them.
Yeah. Wow. So powerful. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It's been